Hi, everyone. This is Joanie Courtney with EmployBridge, and I am here today to give you a quick update on the September jobs report, which was just released last Friday. This was a very anticipated report. It's actually the last report that we will see before the presidential election. So all eyes were certainly on job growth and where the actual growth was and what sectors were doing the hiring. I can tell you that expectations were that we would really see about 900,000 to 1 million jobs created and see that unemployment kind of tick down to 8.2%. So if you haven't followed it, let me give you some details of what the actual report did tell us. It was a little bit less than expectations. We saw that 661,000 jobs were actually created for the month of September. So it was less than that 900,000 estimate by economists. However, the government sector did lose over 200,000 jobs. So when you look at the private sector did add 877,000 jobs for the month of September. So still a good report, but we still have work to do to really make up all of the losses that the US experienced during COVID. Now, some other numbers to highlight in the September report. We did see unemployment tick down to 7.9%, which really is fantastic. You know, I do think that when we saw it spike, certainly starting to spike in March and April and May, we never expected that it could come back so quickly. So we are moving in the right direction, but again, still have more work to do to get us down to where we were prior to the pandemic, which was around 3.5% national unemployment. Wages did continue to tick up slightly on the hourly wages. We are certainly seeing more movement at EmployBridge, especially in the manufacturing and logistics area. I can tell you also in our professional business, we're seeing movement in hourly wages. So really across the board, I think we're going to continue to see that, and employers are being competitive with bringing people back to work. Labor participation did go down slightly to 61.4%, and we still have 12.6 million people looking for work. So let me tell you a little bit about the sectors and where the actual job growth was. If you look at the goods producing sector, construction gained 26,000 jobs and manufacturing gained 66,000 jobs. We even saw 1,000 jobs in the mining sector, which was very positive. That has been a sector that really has lost many jobs in 2020, and we're continuing to focus on bringing jobs back in the sector. The service producing sector had some pretty good job growth in many of the industries. So across the board, it was extremely positive. Some of the best performing sectors certainly were leisure and hospitality. It was exciting and a pleasant surprise to see that over 300,000 jobs were created back in the leisure and hospitality sector. This is the sector, as we all know, that was hit the hardest during this pandemic. And it's good to see that there is continued job growth coming back. And we also saw retail add 142,000 jobs in the month of September. So still a lot of work to do for those sectors to catch up. Healthcare was strong with over 100,000 jobs, professional and business service, 89,000 jobs, and transportation and warehousing was 73,000 jobs. So again, good growth in many of the sectors across the board. Unfortunately, you know, that loss of over 200,000 jobs in the government sector made that top line, that headline number, look a lot lower than it actually was for the private sector. Now, if we look at unemployment rates, you can see just what I mentioned a minute ago, that leisure and hospitality continues to be the sector that is hit the hardest. And I don't know about you, but we know that life is different, certainly from a travel perspective, from a business travel, from leisure travel. And you know, you could just walk outside and see that there are not as many airplanes, you know, up in the skies as there were back in January and February. So we're living in a different world today. No one really is traveling unless they absolutely have to. And that has just had such a big impact on this sector. So unemployment is at 19%, and it is going to be continued. It's going to be a continued challenge, really, to get people back to work in the sector. We are talking to people at EmployBridge and letting them know about opportunities in other sectors. For example, if you were, you know, in the retail sector, if you were in the travel or leisure sector, it might be time to think about looking at logistics or manufacturing. And that may seem really different to some people, but I can tell you that you can transfer your skills. There are opportunities, pay rates can be actually very competitive. And environments today in logistics and in manufacturing are state of the art. And many opportunities offer you a chance to learn some new skills and maybe even work with artificial intelligence or robotics. So I encourage people that if you're in leisure and hospitality, or if you're in the retail sector, you may want to consider looking at some other sectors that are a little bit stronger right now. We do see the unemployment rates really declining in many sectors across the board, and I would expect that we're going to continue to see that in the next few months and certainly into 2021. Now, I did want to take a minute just to share some additional highlights with you. I get questions all the time about what's happening in the job market. Are employers really hiring? What's the market like? Are people wanting to get back to work? Is there a demand? So I want to take a moment to just tell you there is a very strong demand for workers today, especially in professional and business service sectors, in the healthcare, in logistics, in manufacturing. All of these areas have a very strong demand. In fact, we are seeing that the job openings and job postings continue to increase, and those numbers are starting to ramp up. We are seeing movement in wages. The hourly wages, as I mentioned before, have been going up significantly, and it is a competitive environment. So there are opportunities out there. I want to encourage the workforce and people that are looking for work to stay optimistic, to look at the sectors that are hiring. I can also tell you, though, from an employer perspective, employers are having a couple of challenges with still getting people back to work. And we see that there's really three reasons that are driving the difficulty in getting people back to work. You know, the first is we still have many states that are offering some stimulus, additional stimulus money, which might be a kind of a de-incentive. They're not incentivizing people really to come back to work. So that extra stimulus could hinder some actual job growth. Now, in addition to that, we are seeing that we're living in a different world today. And everyone knows this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but we have, you know, children that are doing school through Zoom classes, that are at home, daycares aren't open. So parents are having a challenge getting back to work full time if they don't have a solution and a safe environment for their children. And many parents have had to make the decision that one parent may have to stay home, or they're trying to come up with some other options. So that is also a challenge that is hindering some people coming back to work. And then the third thing that I'll mention is we know that there are still concerns around health and safety, and many workers have that concern and might not feel comfortable going back into an environment, a workplace, a manufacturing plant, a distribution center. So that can certainly be a challenge. There are opportunities to work from home depending on what sector you are in, and we are seeing that people are embracing those opportunities and companies are embracing those opportunities where possible, but we know that that can't be done in every case. So, overall, in summary, I do believe that the job report is accurate. Could it have been better? Yes. I think if we can find other ways for people to get back to work, to continue to focus on health and safety, we will see that more jobs will be created in the U.S. and we'll continue to see some strong growth in many sectors across the board. So again, as I mentioned, this was the last report that we will see before the presidential election, but I will be here to share with you the October data, which will be released the first Friday in November. So please tune in and we will break down the numbers for you and share some insights. I hope you enjoyed today, and I look forward to talking to you next month. Thank you.